So according to a post by the Internet Computer Today in which they referenced some statistics by something called ChainSpec, it did indicate that there was over 100,000 commits when it comes to the Internet Computer. And some people may be wondering, well, why and what does this even mean? I'll get into that in today's video, even though nothing I say is financial advice and I am not telling anyone to do anything. Well, first of all, there could just very well be a lot of activity when it comes to the Internet Computer. Now, it was ranked 9th in the world, so it wasn't like top 5 or anything like that, but it's still pretty impressive. And not to mention, what does this even mean? Now, again, this is not a perfect metric, by the way, to indicate development activity, but sometimes people do go off of this metric to kind of have this rough gauge, right, in terms of development activity. It's not perfect. I just want to clarify, it's not a perfect measure to kind of indicate development activity or not, but sometimes people do go off of this as just a rough estimate as to what the development activity may kind of look like. So this is really impressive. Now, people like to say, but yeah, no developers care about the Internet Computer. Well, if that is really the case, why is there over 100,000 commits when it comes to this? Now, again, it's not a perfect indicator for development activity, but people do sometimes go off of this to have a rough estimate, right? So this, if anything, kind of does indicate that, hey, you know what? There might be some development activity when it comes to the Internet Computer, even though these statistics in and of itself don't really tell the full picture, if that kind of makes sense. But yeah, besides that point, people like to say that, oh, you know, the Internet Computer is cooked and all this, but I kind of disagree. And they're just kind of getting started. I mean, if we think about it, Caffeine AI, it hasn't really popped off yet. I mean, sure, it's been somewhat popular. We've seen version 3 so far, but it hasn't really gone mainstream yet, in a sense where it's not like when people want to build apps, a lot of them are just not automatically gravitating towards Caffeine AI, if that makes sense. And Caffeine AI, it's a self-running apps platform. Basically, it kind of allows individuals or developers or whatever to use AI to help, you know, build, let's say, something like an app or something like that, right? So it's a pretty game-changing thing at the end of the day, but it hasn't really gone mainstream yet. So what we're seeing as of right now when it comes to the Internet Computer, it's just kind of like a little bit of the appetizer because Caffeine AI launched very recently. It wasn't like it's been around for many, many years like that. Not necessarily. It just kind of launched not too long ago. But even despite launching quite recently, we're already seeing version 3. That's really impressive. Now, also on top of that, we have to consider cloud engines. The concept of that, it's pretty impressive because through that, Dfinity is going to be really focused on the cloud market. But we haven't really seen cloud engines become fully up and running hypothetically yet in a massive sort of way. So what we're seeing as of right now is just kind of this small appetizer maybe of what the Internet Computer could hypothetically do, because we're already seeing over 100,000 commits when it comes to the Internet Computer. We're already seeing Caffeine AI version 3. We're already seeing cloud engines, and the Internet Computer hasn't really had mass adoption yet. So imagine it's seeing all this, but it hasn't really seen mass scale adoption. So when people like to say, oh, the Internet Computer, it's already reached its peak, it's already done its thing, it's past its prime, but not necessarily. If we take a look at it just from the core products, right, of Dfinity, like let's say in the case of Caffeine AI or cloud engines, they haven't really had their moment to shine. So I don't know why people are saying, oh, this is the peak of it. I disagree with that. I think if anything, it still has a lot yet to prove. And yet still, it's already doing this type of stuff as of right now. So imagine maybe what the numbers would look like if time goes on, right? If maybe in a couple of years, the market hypothetically starts doing a lot better, who knows? And if, let's say, the Internet Computer has better adoption, these numbers that we're seeing as of right now, it could kind of seem minuscule later on down the line. But that's just my perspective. Now, despite all this, though, people like to say, but yeah, the Internet Computer is just around $2.27. So again, for my last 2 videos, basically, when it comes to this, it hasn't really done too much, or if anything, basically. But it doesn't necessarily concern me because, yeah, sure, the price charts are not doing the best, but we have to consider the Internet Computer, there's still things going on behind the scenes. Did you know that actually, because the Internet Computer was ranked 9th in the world in terms of total commits, it was actually ranked higher than Solana? So let's just let that sink in, right? That's really impressive. It's also higher than Tezos, which is also really massive, by the way. However, also on top of that, according to this list, the Internet Computer is ranked higher than Sui, Hedera, Avalanche, Near, also even Stellar. which is kind of impressive, right? It's also ranked higher than Polygon, which is really surprising considering just how massive that is. And also, it was even ranked higher than Algorand. So again, it just overtook a lot. Kind of impressive. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't discredit any of the projects I mentioned before, but it kind of showcases that even though the Internet Computer isn't top 10 in the world, in terms of top 10 in regard to total commits, it's up there. It's actually top 10. It may not be top 10 in terms of market cap, but in terms of that statistic, arguably it is. People oftentimes like to tell me that this is not going to go anywhere when it comes to the Internet Computer, and who knows, only time will tell. However, at least when it comes to the pure statistics, it does beat out some of the other bigger, more popular projects out there. I'm just saying. This is kind of impressive. So people like to say, oh, you know, nothing's going on when it comes to the Internet Computer. I just don't really agree with that. Now, with all this being said, though, is it really such a bad thing seeing the Internet Computer at below $3? Not for me, because I don't know why I'd complain if things became better, yet it became cheaper. I don't know why I'd complain about that. It's like, for instance, if let's say a car got better, yet it became cheaper, would I complain? I don't think I would. So oftentimes people like to associate low prices with something being really bad when it comes to this space. But it doesn't always operate that way, because if we consider Bitcoin is still at around 60 grand, not to mention this space has had a pretty big pullback. The Internet Computer being ranked 50th in the world as of right now in terms of market cap within this space, it just can't really go on an independent rally of its own. It typically doesn't work that way, especially because it's not a microcap, and also because it's already a pretty big project to begin with as of right now. So when people like to tell me, oh wow, this is just not doing much, that means it's really bad. But if I only take a look at the price charts, it doesn't really tell the full story. If the only thing I focused on was the price charts, I would have no idea what's going on behind the scenes when it comes to Dfinity, when it comes to the Internet Computer. I would have no idea, right? Because all I'd see is that, wow, this is so bad. I'd probably think that Dogecoin is way better if I only took a look at the price charts, right? Because the price charts are looking really bad when it comes to the Internet Computer. Nothing to brag home about, really. Nothing that's going to blow my hair back. If I take a look at it, I'd be like, wow, this is really bad. However, again, that's only if I took a look at the price charts. But if I actually take a look at it a little bit deeper and I see the core fundamentals, I actually see what Dfinity is trying to do, then my mindset starts shifting a little bit, because I'm like, whoa, all of that is going on behind the scenes, yet it's below $3? I'm like, wow, that's just kind of my mindset. But again, if I only took a look at the price charts, I would have no idea. I would just think it's really bad. So good thing I actually took a look at the fundamentals. Now, how long am I going to have to wait? I have zero idea, because I can't control this. The only thing I can do is control myself and just wait, and that's pretty much about it. I know it may seem very boring and very uncertain, but, you know, it's just kind of how the space is, in my opinion. If I don't like it, I could just leave. You know, this is purely voluntary. I don't have to believe in this, but I just hypothetically want to, because in 2024, we saw almost $19 when it comes to this. We saw around $9 near the end of last year. And in both cases, or both instances, I should say, 2024 or even 2025, I didn't see an altcoin season, and I think the Internet Computer is way better than before. So the Internet Computer has proven historically that, yes, it could reach around $9 in the past. That also, yeah, it could reach almost $19. We saw that not that long ago. And I believe that the Internet Computer is just a lot better as of right now. So if it did it before, how come it can't hypothetically do it again? Especially that now it's better. Now people like to say, oh, but the market hasn't changed. Well, what happens if it does? You know what I mean? So that's what I'm waiting for. We're over 3 times lower than $9, and we're clearly over 6 times lower than almost $19. Again, we saw almost $19 in 2024. We saw around $9 last year. So that's just kind of the mentality that I have as of right now. I don't mind waiting, because I'm not in a hurry, actually. I have nothing to be in a rush for. So I'm just patiently waiting. But in the meantime, if I do see some amazing statistics when it comes to the Internet Computer, and I maybe see what's going on when it comes to Dfinity, I'll be sure to make a video on it. So I want to say thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you all have a very nice day.